All right, all right. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. This is the first episode of the Pro Freight Report, coming to you from Los Angeles area. We're gonna have a conversation tonight about a few topics. Hold on a second. Let me light up my Instagram feed here. We want to make sure that everybody in Instagram land could actually get a bar of this information we're trying to put out here tonight. So, just a little background on me. My name is James Jones. I have a dispatch business and I'm working hard for some good carriers out here on the West Coast in Los Angeles area. And one of the things I wanted to do was put together a Pro Freight report where I'll come to the trucking world once a week and maybe more if we can build and pick up a little steam here. And just discuss trucking in California and some of the things that affect California truckers and warehousing and dispatching and all facets of trucking and transportation on the West Coast. I find this industry very fascinating, lucrative, and overall, it's just really interesting to deal with the in and outs of logistics and how freight is moved from one A to B and then possibly C and then broken down and delivered. We live in a real delivery culture right now. With Amazon, the DoorDashes, the Roadies, all of the gig apps, the freight is broken down, and then that what they call the last mile has been consumed with, probably hundreds of different gig apps at this point, delivering everything from food to groceries to water to books. Construction equipment, you name it, it's delivered at this point. So, transportation and logistics is something that's not going to go anywhere for a long time. So hopefully the report will be one of your weekly favorites. Okay. One of the main things that recently happened in the last couple of weeks, we had major changes over at C.H. Robinson. The board ousted Bob, I don't want to mess the man's name up, Beisterfield. He was the CEO, if I'm not mistaken, since 2019. So he had a nice 4-year run. I don't think people really saw that coming. They did lose some third quarter. They came a little short of their goals, and so there were some major layoffs over at C.H. Robinson, but I'll be honest, I didn't see them ousting the CEO. C.H. Robinson is one of the largest non-asset-based brokers in the United States. So when you look at that 650 number, or roughly they're about 650 number that they had with the layoffs, I think it might have been commensurate to a large company, and basically just them thinning the fat. A lot of the positions were VP positions, upper management positions, individuals whose salaries were 100,000 or better. Just seemed like they were clearing some cap. I don't know. I did lose one of my broker connects that I've been dealing with for a while now. He's no longer there at C.H. Robinson. I don't know if that had anything to do with those layoffs because he left afterwards. But yeah, they're definitely changing the culture. So we'll see how that works out in 2023. If anybody has any questions or concerns, of course, the comments are open. Let me take a look and see if we have any comments coming in. None at this point. Okay. We can go ahead and continue to move on. Once again, though, I don't think C.H. Robinson is going to stop a beat. They're one of the largest brokers in the United States. They're going to continue to move freight. They're going to continue to be competitive in their sales and marketing with their clients and being able to acquire the freight to be actually moved. So, yeah, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. Getting into California trucking, and that's something that's pretty dear to me, being that I'm in California and being that all of my clients are California carriers. So it's very important for me to keep up with local laws, regulations. As California is one of the more stringent states with car regulations, and that's the California Air Regulation Board. Just last year, we were hit with AB5, and the debate on whether someone is an employee or independent contractor. Now there's the ABC test that was deployed in I think 2 of the elements, B and C, and we can go over what the EDD defines as the ABC test. Maybe we should do that. I'm gonna read what the ABC test is. A worker is considered an employee and not an independent contractor unless the hiring entity meets all 3 conditions of the ABC test. It goes on further to read that the person is independent of the hiring organization in connection with the performance of the work, both under the contract for the performance of the work and in fact. Okay. B, the person performs work that is outside the hiring entity's business, meaning if I'm contracted to deliver something, then I can't subcontract someone else to deliver that for me. I can subcontract someone to maintain my trucks. I can subcontract someone to, that might not have been a good. Anyway, moving on to C, the person is routinely doing work in an independent established trade, occupation, or business that is the same as the work being performed or requested. In a note, it also says workers are considered employees unless proven otherwise. The hiring organization must show that workers meet all conditions of the ABC test in order to classify them as independent contractors, unless there is a statutory exclusion or a determination of employment. Basically, if you don't meet all 3 ABC and the criteria, then you're considered an employee in California. In being an employee, the employer has to provide benefits or benefits package, hourly wage or something of that sort. What that has done for the lease-on business model has pretty much done away with it in California. It's illegal to lease on in California at this point. There are some people being creative in how they're doing it, but they are employees. So they work for a wage, and then they also have an agreement if that's their truck. And so the company pays you to lease your truck but they also pay you a wage. So it's actually two different scenarios. It makes it a little more complicated, but that's how some people are working. But once again, they're still an employee. A lot of truck drivers were in agreements where they were leasing on, and AB5 basically made it illegal, and so they lost whatever equity they had in leasing some of those vehicles, depending on if they were with some of the bigger carriers. AB5 has had a rippling effect throughout the community. I would be interested in hearing from some of the individuals and their own personal stories, if they could, in the comments, and just let us know. How has AB5 affected you 1 year later? Because I'm pretty sure there are some individuals that started out last year that are not starting out this year. Or if they are, it might not be in the same perspective. And on top of that, you have the CARB regulations, where they're banning commercial vehicles in California that have engine models that are 2009 or older. There were extensions. So if you had PM filters on your vehicles, depending on your year and model, you could have gone up to January 1st, 2023, which this is the 16th, January 16th, 2023, Martin Luther King Day. So we're here working on King Day, definitely. I think King will be proud of us working on King Day. But anyway, as of January 1st, no truck with the 2009 engine model engine model year will be allowed in any of the ports in California. Long Beach, Los Angeles, Oakland, none of them. Not only will they not be allowed within the ports, and a lot of people were afraid of that, but you will only be able to legally operate your 2009 or older vehicle up to your registration date. Depending on when that registration date is, it's going to pretty much determine how much money you'll be able to try to make out of your vehicle before it will be illegal to operate on the California highways. If you pay your registration up, you could get a 90-day temporary operation permit. So if you have not made arrangements to get another truck, or you're just gonna run your truck until you can't run it anymore, if you pay your registration up, the DMV will allow you a 90-day extension temporary operation permit to get another 90 days of work out of your 2009 or older late model diesel engine truck. And that's for, if I'm not mistaken, 14,000 pounds to 26,000 pounds gross vehicular weight rating. All diesel engines. So that would include not only semi trucks, but buses and school buses as well. I'm not really familiar with the buses and the moving of bodies. I work in moving freight, so we're going to go, focus back on the semis. But once again, if you pay the registration up, you're going to be able to get a temporary operation permit. So depending on when your registration is due, you may be able to get a full year in, or close to a full year, with the add of the extension. I don't know, it just all works with how you're working your program and your business model. Um, CARB has a loan assistance program, and you can go to CARB's website, and they have a couple different links. One is a criteria checklist, so you can see if you meet that criteria, because they do provide monies for, I guess you would say, non-traditional financing. So if someone was not able to get traditional financing, there are avenues that might be available to you. Here's the thing. They reported up to 80,000 trucks that would not be able to function after January 1. That's not true. Those trucks will be able to function up until their registration date, at which point California Department of Motor Vehicles will not re-register your diesel engine of 2009 engine model year or older. You will be allowed a 90-day temporary operating permit if you pay your registration in full and on time. Once again, depending on when your registration is, everybody's different. So the idea that 70,000 drivers will not be able to legally operate after January 1st was kind of a misnomer. Yeah, getting back to the non-traditional loans. If you check out the CARB website, and I will put the CARB link in the description, there's a list of lenders, so you may be able to reach out to some of the lenders and see what the criteria are directly. There's an application and a checklist, and there's plenty of information for you to try to go through. 70,000 people, you might want to check it as soon as you can. I'm pretty sure others are looking into it, or have already looked into it, and so whatever pool of money or resources are there may be going pretty quickly at this point, so you might want to check them out. That's the CARB website. Once again, I'll put a link to the CARB website in the description below, and you'll be able to take a look at it for yourself. One of the other things that we spoke about was the AB5 and how it has affected truckers 6 months to a year after. We know it went into effect, officially went into effect January, but they started forcing it in July, if I'm not mistaken. They really started pushing and forcing it. They gave you some grace period time to make arrangements, but after July, they started really pressing the buttons on that one. So California has experienced some serious setbacks for a lot of truckers that may not be in the most affluential positions. It's time to make some serious decisions on how you run your business. I think you really need to find out what it costs to run your trucks. If you don't know, if you're a smaller owner-operator, I think understanding what your operating costs are will give you a barometer on how to pick freight. You know, you never want to pick freight where you're on a negative. So if you understand what your costs are as an owner-operator completely, I think it always puts you in a better position. I think a good dispatcher partner that can identify some of these things will always be a great asset to a good operator. A dispatcher that keeps up with the local laws, that will allow you to stay on the road, is always a good asset. I represent Professional Freight Dispatch. This episode, the first episode, is being brought to you by Professional Freight Dispatch, where we provide all of these services. We provide back office. Of course, everybody does. We do our best to negotiate the best rates for our carriers, as do a lot of good dispatchers out there. We're up every morning looking at the weather, where our trucks at. We want to know where they at. How close are you? I'm bugging them. I'm calling them before I leave the house at 5 o'clock sometimes. But these are the steps that we have to take to provide great service for our carriers. They're out there providing services for not just me, but for America. They're getting things moved from A to B to C. And I try to help them as best I can. That's what Professional Freight Dispatch does. So if you need a good dispatcher, like I said, this episode of Pro Freight Report is brought to you by Professional Freight Dispatch, where we provide all of your dispatch needs. I can be reached directly at the dispatch line, 310-554-4085, 310-554-4085. I can get an email at information@professionalfreightdispatch.com. Once again, info@professionalfreightdispatch.com. And I'll go ahead and leave you, good people. It's a holiday. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We just had about a good week of wet weather here in Los Angeles. And so while a lot of freight was delayed, we did get it out. We did get going. Everybody left and came back safely. So we want to make sure everybody gets on that road and gets home safe. Take care. And this has been the Pro Freight Report. We'll be back at you once a week.